Today is Tuesday, June 24th. We're talking about Iran firing back at the U.S. and how so far Americans have been able to fend off any real damage. And word of a potential deal that could bring at least a little more calm to the Middle East. Also, what the Supreme Court decided about immigrants getting deported to countries far from home. Plus, the heatwave is testing America's power grid. Health insurance companies are promising changes, and a country music legend who doesn't tour anymore is making one exception. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The largest American military installation in the Middle East came under attack this week. Iran launched missiles at an airbase in Qatar, where about 10,000 American troops are stationed. Of course, Iran was acting in retaliation to the U.S. military striking its nuclear facilities. No one at the base was reported killed, partly because Iran gave the U.S. advanced notice. And Iranian missiles were intercepted. President Trump dismissed the attack, calling it a weak response, but he did thank Iran for the warning. The Iranian government says it's ready to respond again if the U.S. takes any more action. For now, though, most of Iran's focus seems to be on Israel and a potential ceasefire. President Trump actually announced a deal yesterday, a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, saying it would bring an official end to the war. And Iran state media said the Iranian government agreed and that a ceasefire would go into effect this morning. Well, Israel says Iran then fired missiles at Israel after its own deadline. It came after the Israeli government said it carried out its most extensive wave of attacks on Tehran ever yesterday, targeting a notorious prison, routes to a nuclear enrichment site, and more. Now the rest of the world is watching what happens next. The International Atomic Energy Agency held an emergency meeting yesterday where its leader warned that if fighting doesn't end soon, quote, violence and destruction could reach unimaginable levels. And today, many of the world's top leaders, including President Trump, are expected to be in the Netherlands for the NATO summit. Diplomats have told the BBC this could be the most significant NATO summit since the Cold War. In the past, Trump has confronted other members of the alliance, accusing them of freeloading off American security guarantees. Since then, NATO Secretary General has agreed to European hikes in defense spending, which were expected to be announced this week. He actually designed the whole meeting to be focused on money, not just about defense spending, but also aid to Ukraine and relations with the U.S. in the face of tariffs. But now it seems the conflict in the Middle East could overshadow all of it. To be continued. The U.S. Supreme Court sided with President Trump on a key immigration case this week. It's letting the Trump administration deport migrants to countries where they are not citizens and have no connections, at least for now, while the case is still playing out in court. The High Court's decision pauses a federal judge's ruling that said migrants must be given a chance to show they could face danger in the country that they're being sent to. The Supreme Court's order was not signed, and it didn't get into the reasoning behind it. But the three liberal justices made it clear they disagreed. The decision could end up applying to thousands of migrants being sent to many different countries. But right away, it's expected to affect 6 people set to be deported to South Sudan, even though they aren't from there. The Department of Homeland Security spokesperson has already put out a statement saying, quote, fire up the deportation planes. The U.S. Supreme Court's order is not the final say on this issue, though, since it will continue to go through the lower courts. Meanwhile, many other stories are coming out about the tens of thousands of migrants who've already been taken into custody by federal immigration agents, all of whom face deportation. For example, a Marine Corps veteran says Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, officers detained his wife even though she was still breastfeeding their now 3-month-old and also caring for their 2-year-old. His wife was brought to the U.S. by her mother as a teenager and had no criminal history, but was arrested at her green card hearing last month. In response to questions, the Department of Homeland Security said the woman was in the country illegally and that the Trump administration is not going to ignore the rule of law. With that, Marine Corps recruiters are changing their strategy. They've been told they can no longer imply that being in the U.S. military means securing immigration relief, even though in the past, veterans and their family members were given more grace. The number of abortions happening in the U.S. is going up, despite years of bans and restrictions. A new report says U.S. abortions totaled more than 1.1 million last year. The reason for the rise? Telehealth. The report says 1 in 4 abortions were provided using telehealth last year, and about half of those abortions went to patients living under bans, since their doctors operate in states with so-called shield laws designed to protect them from legal jeopardy. That said, there are legal cases now challenging those shield laws or any abortions through telemedicine. Stay tuned. A brutal heat wave is still impacting millions of Americans. In fact, today, the worst of it is coming for the Northeast. Almost 10% of the country will feel temperatures in the triple digits today, and it will feel like triple digits for many more. Places with the highest level of risk today span from Chicago to Pittsburgh and North Carolina to New York. Some of them could be up to 40 degrees warmer than just last week. Already, many temperature records have been broken in places where people are not used to oppressive heat waves. Hospitals were filled with patients yesterday dealing with heat-related illnesses, and power outages impacted thousands of people. Energy grid operators told power plants to maximize their output this week, hoping they can keep up with everyone running their air conditioning at the same time. But even then, there have been some blackouts. The heat wave is expected to last at least through tomorrow. More news ahead in just a moment, but first, thanks to our sponsor, Hiya Health. One of the easiest and most consistent parts of my kiddo's morning routine is taking his Hiya Children's Vitamin. He loves the feeling of getting vitamins like mommy every morning, and he loves the taste too. I honestly thought the novelty of it would wear off eventually, but he's been taking these for 2 years now, and he's still loving and benefiting from both the children's vitamins and the probiotics. And I love that Hiya makes a super-powered chewable vitamin that is supporting his immune system, energy, brain function, teeth and bones, and more. And that, unlike many other children's vitamins, there's no sugar and no gummy junk. And by the way, if you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on their regular website. So go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Now, back to the news. The governor of Texas signed a new first-of-its-kind law that could change the way foods are labeled all around the country. It requires warnings to be added to foods containing 44 different dyes or additives that are pretty common in baked goods, candy, drinks, and more. So the food industry now faces some choices. Companies can reformulate their products to avoid those warning labels. They could go ahead and add the labels, or stop selling certain products in Texas, or challenge the state in court. No matter what, the Environmental Working Group says when a state as big as Texas requires a warning, it will have an impact everywhere. There aren't any legal challenges to it yet, but a food industry trade group has criticized the new law, saying it's unnecessary and that already ingredients used in the U.S. food supply are safe and have been rigorously studied. Either way, more laws like this are expected all around the country, from blue states like California that have been trying to crack down for years, as well as red states like Texas that are now racing to embrace the new Make America Healthy Again agenda. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. met with America's largest health insurance companies this week, and there they apparently promised to streamline the prior authorization process that can delay or deny patients access to care. In case you're not familiar, prior authorization is when health insurance companies have to sign off on tests, procedures, or drugs before a patient can get them. The companies say they're necessary to control costs and make sure the treatments and medications are safe and effective. But the process has been heavily criticized, with many patients and doctors saying it creates too many roadblocks. Now, some of the concerns may be addressed. A health insurance company trade group detailed some of the commitments insurers made yesterday. It says they'll make it easier to submit requests online and that at least 80% of electronic requests should be answered in real time. It also says insurers will offer easier-to-understand explanations when they deny authorization and guidance about how to appeal, among other things. Health insurance companies have made similar commitments in the past to fix prior authorization, but they haven't actually implemented reform. More than 50 health insurers have signed on to this latest promise. America's national forests are now being opened up to road construction and development. The Trump administration says it's going to do away with a Clinton-era policy that banned mining, logging, and road building on 58 million acres of backcountry. It's aligned with Trump's goal to lift environmental regulations he considers to be roadblocks to industry. The USDA says lifting the rule will also help it better manage forest lands for fire risk. But environmental groups are criticizing this change, arguing wildfires are more likely to start in places with roads, and that logging exacerbates climate change, making wildfires more intense. Protests have already started and lawsuits have been threatened. The U.S. Forest Service will issue a formal notice of the rollback in the coming weeks. Amazon just completed another launch, doubling the number of its satellites in orbit. With this, Amazon now has 54 satellites in space. Its goal is to send up to 3,236. And even that would not touch SpaceX's Starlink, which already has 8,000 satellites in orbit. Amazon is still hoping to be a real rival to SpaceX, bringing high-speed, dependable internet to most of the populated world. And it's booked more than 80 launches to deliver its satellites with the help of many providers, including SpaceX. Amazon says it could power on its first customer terminals later this year. Grab your rhinestones, Vegas is calling. That's how country music icon Dolly Parton announced her first Las Vegas concert series in 32 years. It's a mini residency, just 6 shows coming in December. Parton is promising to focus on the hits from Jolene to 9 to 5 and many, many more. This caps a busy year for Parton, who's producing a Broadway musical inspired by her life and music. She's also set to receive an honorary Oscar for her humanitarian work. Tickets for Dolly Parton's Vegas shows go on sale tomorrow via Ticketmaster. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, thanks to our sponsor, OneSkin. You've already heard me talk about how much I love OneSkin's OS1 face and eye topical supplements and sunscreens. Now I want to tell you about their OS1 hair. This is an easy-to-use scalp serum that I like to use with OneSkin's Derma Roller for even better absorption. So why would a skincare company create a scalp treatment? Because the scalp is skin. And just like the rest of your body, it experiences cellular aging. But instead of wrinkles, it messes with your hair follicles and natural growth cycle. So whether it's on your face, body, or scalp, OneSkin's OS1 peptide works at the cellular level to improve key aging biomarkers while reducing the visible signs of aging. OneSkin believes the purpose of skincare is not just to improve how you look, but to optimize your skin's biology at the cellular level. Founded and led by an all-women team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with their proprietary OS1 peptide. Get 15% off with the code newsworthy at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with the code newsworthy. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin and scalp with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you. Okay, now back to Trivia Tuesday. And today's trivia question is, where was the first U.S. post office? Listen again next Tuesday for the answer and explanation. As for last week's trivia question, which iconic monument grows taller in the summer? The answer is the Eiffel Tower. The world-famous monument is made of wrought iron, which is sensitive to temperature variations. So when temperatures rise, so does the Eiffel Tower, in a natural physical phenomenon called thermal expansion. Then, when cold winter arrives, the metal contracts and the tower can get shorter. Though, keep in mind, the difference is only a few millimeters, and none of the 6 to 7 million people who visit each year notice any kind of difference. Thank you so much for joining us to get caught up on the news today. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news to know. Until then, have a great day.